like if someone is a legitimate pervert and all they have to do is say they're a woman and now they can go to the women's bathroom, there's no way to stop that. I'm not saying that that's the majority of people. I'm saying there are human beings that are like that. And this does not in any way discount trans people. This just says there's people that will game the system and there's no safeguards in place. So if you want to protect people from that, I don't know how you would do it other than having some sort of security in each women's bathroom to make sure that no one's creeping on people, which is outside impossible. You cannot have that.
Well, and I mean, think about, again, deontological principles. Until 3 minutes ago, 117 billion people had existed. That's roughly the estimate of how many people have ever existed, who fully understood that there were two phenotypes in the human species called male and female, and nobody disagreed as to what that was. But suddenly now it is really controversial to argue that, and that's why I do some of the satire and sarcasm on social media. It's not to be mean or flippant. It's because the only way you can handle some of the lunacy we're saying is through derision, through mockery, because it's insane. I mean, we are the product of 117 billion people who exactly knew how coupling works, but now we can no longer say it. When we refer to Leah Thomas, the 6'4" swimmer, we can't say that that's a male because that's a female because she said so. It's insane.
I've seen women have arguments with people that are, pro-trans rights, and and these women are arguing that there's pro-trans rights, and then there's erasing women's rights, and including like the athletic argument, and including the female spaces like intimate spaces, locker rooms, bathrooms. It's a very controversial subject in this strange culture we live in, and it's one thing that people can subscribe to one side or the other and find a group willingly, vehemently opposed to their position. So they engage in instantaneous conflict. So they're involved in this psychic war with the competing ideologies, and it gives them meaning. And that's a real problem with human beings, that we do attach ourselves to things. Even if those things don't involve you or your life, you decide, like, this is the movement that I'm going to get behind, stand behind, and I'm going to tell people. And it gives you meaning. Like you're a social justice warrior for the rights of the disenfranchised. And there's something to be said for actually doing that. Of course, there's something to be said for actually standing up for people who don't have a voice and doing the right thing. There is something to be said for that. But there's also something to be said for to be able to look at this from both sides. And if you're an 11-year-old girl and there's some guy's dick in your face in the girl's bathroom, like, what? This guy's just walking around naked in the locker room and you're a kid? Like, is that okay? I mean, how do you know what's happening here? Like, are you sure? Like, and in some cases, when someone's like so feminine and so like seems like a woman, you wouldn't have any problem with it, right?
Well, I mean, there is a normal distribution, for example, when it comes to, women who are very masculine, men who are very feminine. We've always recognized that. But we've never taken the step into the abyss of infinite lunacy where we say sometimes women can have penises. And that's why I wrote The Parasitic Mind, the last book, right? Because I was really literally arguing that human minds can be parasitized by ideological worms in the way that you can be parasitized by actual brain worms, right? Because there is no rational mechanism by which you can take a sexually reproducing species involving two phenotypes. There aren't any more than two. There's male and there's female, nothing else. And then argue that that's simply not true. It's antiquated to argue that boys have penises and girls have vagina. I actually satirically put out a tweet where I argued for finger fluidity and finger diversity. I argued that if you're born congenitally with 9 fingers or 9 toes, then we should no longer be teaching in biology class that boys and girls are born with 10 fingers. I was being facetious, but that's exactly the logic that they're using, right? Of course, there are some people who are born intersex, and of course they have the right to live a dignified life free of bigotry. That doesn't mean, though, that we have to go back and rewrite the anatomy and biology books. And that's why I fight all these battles online and so on, because I truly am allergic to bullshit. I am very deontological when it comes to truth, and I get personally offended when I see people espousing all that nonsense.
What is it that Dennis Prager was just talking about? There was some video that came across my Instagram feed that was him saying that whatever medical organization is recommending that children not be labeled male or female,
right?
Because they don't have the ability to choose. Yeah,
right.
They can't tell you how they identify.
It's, and have you?
Let's find out, because it's something crazy.
Yeah.
I remember reading it going, I'm not ready for this. I have shit to do. I can't.
well,
or watching it.
Now
rather.
children are being taught that, medical professionals, to the best of their ability, take a educated guess as to the sex of a child. Really? So until 3 minutes ago, 117 billion people knew exactly how to assort into male and female, but now we no longer abide by those antiquated binaries. I mean, it's insane. So
terrifying.
Why can't we chew gum and walk at the same time? I think both you and I are very socially liberal. I don't care one way or the other about what transgender people do. That doesn't mean that I have to accept the fact that a guy with a penis can call themselves a girl and I have to just say amen.
It seems crazy to have to agree to that. And that's not discounting the idea of trans people. It's real. But it seems crazy to force everyone to go along with what was called gender dysphoria up until very recently.
Exactly.
And there was a psychological condition that they would talk about, an issue that people had.
Well, and to the point, remember earlier I put up the Jamie put up the Dress to Kill movie. In the past, when you wanted to have a sex change operation, the number of steps that you had to go through before you were accepted for sex change reassignment was quite assiduous. And it made perfect sense because it's a really, it's something that you can't undo. Yeah. And so it made perfect sense that you'd have to go through. And now a 5-year-old can say that they are and you're not allowed to question it. It's insane.
You can put them on hormone block.